Welcome, Giants fans, into another episode of Coach Convos as we get to know our third base coach, Mark Hallberg. And the first thing you do is look up a player or a coach and says where they're born. Saudi Arabia. You don't hear that very often. So let's just start with your background and your upbringing in the Middle East.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, first of all. My parents were teachers, international school teachers, and I was born in Saudi Arabia. Both American citizens. That's a question I get quite often. Is like, so are you a citizen or? But yeah, both teachers, international school teachers, and born in Saudi Arabia. Lived in the Middle East most of my life, and then each summer we would come back to Wisconsin, where our family's from. And then in 10th grade, I moved back to the States and finished up high school.
So growing up in the Middle East, what was the sports scene like?
You know what? The weather is similar to like in Arizona, so I was kind of around the softball fields. That's a big activity over there. So my parents were playing softball and I was a kid, you know, being drugged to the softball field. Tennis, soccer was a big thing. Probably the most interesting one is cricket, right? So I got a chance to play cricket when I was living in Islamabad, Pakistan. And no gloves, right? So they catch the ball and the ball's kind of like a baseball, right? So I actually thought of that yesterday. I caught a ground ball, a foul ball, and I caught it with my bare hands and I was like, these guys catch, right, right? Catch the ground ball all the time. Yeah, which is interesting.
Will you share all the sports that you played? And he's probably not going to brag, so I'll brag for him because he was really, really good.
So I was very fortunate that I had a chance to play 3 different sports in college: football, basketball, Division III basketball, and then baseball. But my passion was within baseball. I get that questions like, why'd you choose baseball? And when I was 6 years old, it's funny because Buster talked about his love for the Braves and how he fell in love with baseball. And for me, it was very similar, where I fell in love with baseball because of the Minnesota Twins, the 1991 World Series, and when Kirby Puckett hit the home run in Game 6. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, you know what, one day I want to do that, right?
You're not going to brag about yourself. So you were like a super stud in soccer, in tennis. As you mentioned, you played basketball. I'm sure you loved those too. Was it tough when you did have to decide on one?
It got tough my senior year because I had a really inspirational soccer coach from Trinidad and Tobago, and he really pushed me. He's like, you should do this, you should go for this. Tennis, like 12 to 14, tennis was probably my best sport, going to play around the country. But for whatever reason, I fell in love with baseball, and it was like, that's what I want to do.
So he already mentioned Buster, and that's one of these cool stories about Mark is he connects to Buster much longer than any of us do. I feel like I've known him since he was a baby, but you've known him longer. You guys ended up being college roommates at Florida State. I think you have a really cool story if you'll share it about how you two met and decided to become roommates.
Yeah, so we met in the Cape Cod Baseball League. He was actually on a different team, and he had an open spot, an open room, and I was transferring to Florida State, and we met in that interaction in the summer, and then we became roommates. And that was actually one of the best years that I've ever had, and really thankful for our time together there.
So was he a clean roommate? I mean, that's the obvious question. Was he clean?
I think so. I think that's one of the things that I've said in the past is we have very similar values in kind of in terms of family and other things like that, and we like to have fun. But obviously he's a very respectful person, so he was very clean.
I think people can already tell in the short amount of time that you've been talking that you're easy to talk to. Like, you just have a calm demeanor to you. I think Buster probably really liked it because Buster had to make a decision in college when they talked about moving him to catcher. And I know he went to you as a sounding board to talk about that. Will you share that story?
So people know he was a freshman All-American shortstop, and when I transferred in, I was playing shortstop as well for a couple of weeks. So it was kind of a little bit awkward, right? We're roommates, we're both playing shortstop, but we had a need for a catcher, and you know, our assistant coach, Mike Martin Jr., threw the idea to Buster, like, what do you think about catching? And he came home one night and we were grilling out like we normally do, and he asked me, he's like, what do you think about me becoming a catcher? And
you thought it was great.
Right, at first it kind of caught me off guard, and I was like, I don't know, what do you think? And I actually just paused for a second. I told him I think it would be a great fit, you know, for a ton of different reasons.
All of us.
Right, and it ended up working out, and I think it would have worked out no matter what he chose to do, but it was pretty cool to see him have a seamless transition and just like own the position so quickly.
What happened in your career and what led you to coaching?
So Diamondbacks drafted me, and I was able to get up to AAA. Got a chance to be invited to big league camp for 2 years. In 2011 was my last year playing, and as I went into the 2012 season, started my throwing program, I had a small shoulder injury, and it was kind of the icing on the cake, right? I was kind of looking at things holistically, like, do I want to kind of be AAA, big league, back and forth? I was looking for structure and stability in my life and purpose. I had 2 years of school left of education. I'm like, when is the right time, right? It might be two more years.
Stay with it or
go back and finish my degree. But I was very thankful that I was able to choose the education route, go back and finish my degree and become a teacher.
Give us a little bit of background on finishing school and jumping back into baseball in a coaching role.
Yeah, so went back to Wisconsin River Falls and was finishing up my degree. I wanted to teach. I was interested in physical activity, physical education, and health. And so as I finished my college degree, I became a high school head coach. A lot of people don't know that at River Falls High School. So I finished River Falls and I went over to student teach in Saudi Arabia. My brother was living there and working for a company called Aramco, the oil company. So I did my student teaching over there, and I had the Cape Cod Baseball League lined up for the summer. And as I finished my student teaching, I got offered a job to teach in Saudi Arabia. And so I signed a contract, and I set off to the Cape. And as I was in the Cape, Florida State called and was like, hey, what about being a volunteer assistant at Florida State? And I was like, all right, this is like, I got to choose a path here, which way to go. And I thought about it, and I ended up honoring the contract to join education. And I went over to Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so do I have my facts straight that in high school in Wisconsin, where you finished up, you did not strike out your junior or senior year in baseball, like the entire season, 2 seasons, he didn't strike out. When you coached that high school team, did you remind them of that often? Did you?
No, I mean...
like they strike out, they go, yeah, I didn't do that. I don't know what that's like.
It's interesting because I try to recognize that it was a bit not normal to do that.
So crazy.
And strikeouts are part of the game.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to be the coach that was like, I never did it, so you guys should never do it.
Right.
I didn't want to be like that.
I'm teasing you, but I probably would have said that. I don't know what that's like. Yeah. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
When did you become aware of that stat?
You know, I didn't even like know about it in high school, to be honest. Like people after the season finished my senior year, they said that, like, oh, you never struck out the last 2 years, and I was like, it felt like I had at some point.
Like it got out? Yeah.
But I just didn't, I guess. Like in my mind, like whenever I went up to the plate to hit, like I wanted to hit the ball, you know, or find a way to get on base. And so I think my background in tennis and all the other hand-eye sports that I played really helped me develop good hand-eye coordination.
Are you listening, kids? Lots of sports, lots of sports. I think Buster had something to do with you getting into the Giants organization. So what made you flip the page back to coaching, even though coaching is its own form of teaching?
In 2018, they asked if I could join the Giants for the summer, right? So joined short season summer and not compromise my teaching job in Dubai. And so I went to Salem Kaiser as a fundamentals coach in 2018, and great summer. The manager was Hector Borg. He was awesome, learned a ton from them. And then I went back to Dubai, and in 2019, they're like, what do you think about managing? I think the Giants are gonna be like, either join full time or maybe see you later. So the transition happened with Boch and Cap, and in 2020, opportunity presented itself. In 2020, I had an opportunity to join the Giants full time. You
know, you come in 2022 and fill in for one of the most beloved Giants, longest tenured coach in franchise history, in Ron Wotus, and you take his spot, and you don't like the spotlight, and here it is, it's all over you. Who is this guy? How did you prepare for that role in knowing how popular Ron was and how beloved, and to continue to have your own identity in that role?
It's a great question. In my previous job in the American School of Dubai, I also replaced kind of a legend in the school, so that was great training for me. I've never tried to be anybody else but myself while respecting my predecessor. And so like Wo's way of doing things and connecting with people is going to be different, and I have so much respect for that. And so I knew going in that I could learn a tremendous amount from both of them. And respect the relationships that they had built and their way of doing the job, but also create my own way of doing it that was true to myself. I do like to stay under the radar.
And here we are.
Right, for 2 years I was able to, and I understand why. I mean, we have great fans. And
I talked to Gabe about you. I was like, oh, I get to talk to Mark. I was like, Mark's great, great. And part of what he loves about you is the calm that you bring to the game. How does that help you in a stressful situation, being the third base coach? You have to make split decisions, and you have no time to do this, and you have to be prepared, heavily prepared. But does your calmness really help you in that situation?
I think so.
Do you ever freak out?
I mean, I like when I'm trying to get rough to score and like waving like crazy. I didn't expect.
That question's coming.
Okay, but those are moments where I get excited and I'm doing things that I get in. Like I want you to score. I want you to be safe. So, but I do think like foundationally, I'm prepared with the game states, and then I use my instincts, and that's what Wo talked to me a lot about. He's like, in real time, the best third base coaches use their instincts, and that's been really fun to get back into the game because it's almost like you're so close to the action, you're almost another player, right? And so I've been able to use my education and advanced work combined with my instincts. But I do think like in big moments, a sense of calmness and clarity is always a good thing.
Do you feel that your background, your upbringing, international upbringing, gives you a different perspective on this game?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I mean, I guess that's when I'm able to connect with a lot of different types of people and situations. I feel like very fortunate that I've been exposed to so many different things and traveling the world and meeting different types of people and cultures and religions and understanding that. And so I would say that my background as a third culture kid and a global citizen helps give me brings connection to a lot of different situations and environments I'm in.
All right, so these came on YouTube, so thank you everybody for writing in your questions. I had to choose, so not everybody gets their question asked. Could you please share one interesting, funny story about Buster? I told you were gonna get this. Buster from his college days. Of course, something that won't upset him. I mean, I think it's fine. You can share whatever you want.
One of the things that we did a lot is we would watch Wheel of Fortune. And so we were watching Wheel of Fortune, and as he transitioned, right, but he was like in the practicing catching in the living room, right? And so like it was while we're watching it, he's like, and I remember that, not all the time, but as he first transitioned, he's like, you gotta do blocking and do this and do that. So I remember him like practicing blocking while we're watching Wheel of Fortune.
Would you throw both?
No. He's just like just trying to work on mobility and flexibility.
Oh wow, that's great.
It's funny.
Who was better at solving the puzzles?
I'm going to respectfully decline to answer that, because if I say I think he ended up getting the best of me probably most of the time.
Bottom 9, tie game. Who are you picking to tag up from third to win the game? And then I have their pick. Who do you pick to win the game?
On our current roster?
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. So in terms of just raw, I'd probably pick somebody with raw speed. Yeah, so right now it'd be Slater or Gonzalez. And if Duggar's healthy, probably Duggar. So those would be my choices.
Well, you'll make this person very happy because they said I'd pick Slater.
Okay.
So you guys are, kismet. Last one. I told you this was going to you. What was going through your mind sending Darren Ruff home on opening day?
So that was
Pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the part where I got a bit excited. Like I knew that Soler was in the left center field gap, and when the ball was hit down the line with 2 outs and a chance to win the game, it was actually an easier decision than most people probably would think. Like I was going to send him, and whether he was out or safe, I felt like it was the right decision. But as he came around third, that's a long ways to run. So I was just, you don't know what you're going to do in that moment. And I just was waving him in, and I was down there and trying to make sure he was safe. And luckily he was, thankfully he was. And the most important thing is we won, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was really cool to, like I mentioned this earlier, it was really cool to feel the energy of 40,000 people. I'm very thankful that all those fans come out to support us.
Well, so now nobody can say who's that guy coaching third for the Giants, because here he is. Mark Hallberg. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
having
doing
me
this.
on.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
Told you
Amy.
guys you'd love them.